Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. That's depending where you are in the world. I'm here live in London doing the nighttime devotion. Just had a shower from the devotional Conflict and Courage by Ellen White, the title today. At the Damascus Gate. Acts 9, verse 3 and 4. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus. And suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? With the faith and the experience of the Galilean disciples who had accompanied with Jesus were united in the work of the gospel, the fiery vigor and intellectual power of a rabbi of Jerusalem, a Roman citizen born in a Gentile city, a Jew not only by descent but by lifelong training, patriotic devotion, religious faith, educated in Jerusalem by the most eminent of the rabbis, instructed in all the laws and traditions of the fathers, Saul of Tarsus, shared to the fullest extent the pride and prejudices of his nation. While still a young man, he became an honored member of the Sanhedrin. He was looked upon as a man of promise, a zealous defender of the ancient faith. In the theological schools of Judea, the word of God had been set aside for human speculations. It was robbed of its power by the interpretations and traditions of the rabbis. With their fierce hatred of their Roman oppressors, they cherished the determination to recover by force of arms their national supremacy. The followers of Jesus, whose message of peace was so contrary to their schemes of ambition, they hated and put to death. In this persecution, Saul was one of the most bitter and relentless actors. At the gate of Damascus, the vision of the crucified one changed the whole current of his life. The persecutor became a disciple, the teacher a learner. The days of darkness spent in solitude at Damascus were as years in his experience. The Old Testament scriptures stored in his memory were his study and Christ his teacher. Paul did not think that he made any real sacrifice when he exchanged Phariseeism for the gospel of Jesus, the Christ. When Paul found that he was on or in a wrong path, he linked himself according to the divine light with a people he had thought he must wipe from the earth. He taught Christ, lived Christ, and suffered martyrdom for Christ's sake. At the Damascus gate, that is the whole story of Paul in the space of about 4 minutes. And I love how it spells out just how honored and learned he was. He was a Roman by citizen, born in the city of Roman city, born as a Jew by descent, lifelong training, patriotic devotion, religious faith, educated in Jerusalem by the most eminent, the top rabbis, instructed in all the laws and traditions of the Old Testament, everything. And he was Saul of Tarsus. He still a young man. I don't know exactly what that means as a young man, but still a young man. He was an honored member of the Sanhedrin. So he must have been very, very intelligent to take all that in, teach it, and was so zealous about it. And while he was on the way to Damascus to persecute Christians, a big light shone on him. And he was, I wouldn't say thrown to the ground, but he just fell to the ground. And he was blinded by the light. And he heard the voice, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he heard that and he was blinded. And all he could do was feel the earth or feel the dust or the whatever it was on the road under his feet and under his hands. And he heard this sound, heard this voice. Then he had to make his way to Damascus, blind, no sight, and he was blind for 3 days. In that 3 days, everything ran through his mind. Just imagine you have 3 whole days, you're blind. First time you're blind, you can't see a thing, you have no idea what's going on, you have no idea where you are, you have no idea who you're with. And then they call Ananias, I think, to come. Ananias, who was one of the people who were afraid of him coming because he was coming to try and kill them all. And then he was sent to save him, to take the scales from his eyes, to give him his sight back. Obviously not he doesn't do it, but he does it, God does it through him. This guy who was so honored as a young man, an honored Sanhedrin, and yet he sacrificed all that for the gospel of Jesus. And then Paul, who was in the wrong path, was now given the right path. The divine light showed him the way. And then he had to learn Christ once again, to then teach Christ, to live Christ, to eventually suffer martyrdom for Christ. Imagine. I was asked by this guy I know just yesterday, what does it mean to be born again? So this story is a good example of what it means to be born again, because he, from our understanding, wasn't baptized in water. He probably was, but not that we were told. But he was baptized right there on the road to Damascus, figuratively speaking. Christ stopped him, and in the space of 3 days, I suppose you could say he was converted, born again. And when you're born again, you have to learn all over again. You have to completely unlearn what you've been being taught and learn all those years, and completely unlearn all that and relearn what that light, that truth gives you.